Right, guys, it's going to be a reaction to Gamers Nexus. They just done the Steam Machine review, so they got a live copy of it. Just for a heads up, in the UK, Steam Machine is going for $900 in a minute, or £900, or it's going for £1,200 with a 2 terabyte model and a controller. And is that worth it? Well, let me just show you exactly why I don't think you should buy this machine.
That and future videos.
What we're going to do? Go straight into the gaming. No messing about. We're going to go straight into the gaming benchmarks on Gamers Nexus. Put a link down in the description below if you want to check out the full video.
Up now, this is another game where we have a massive amount of data due to its 3 years on the test bench. The Steam Machine ran at 94 FPS average, putting it...
Okay. So what we got here is the Steam Machine here is the same performance as a 2070 Super. A 2070 Super, dude, and they're charging what, £900 for the model without the controller, without a decent amount of memory, without any extra additional features. We have just got the box. You've only got 16GB of RAM. You've only got 8GB of VRAM in your graphics card. You've got a 512GB of storage. That's nothing, dude. That's literally nothing. I mean, the Wi-Fi 6E and the Bluetooth, you can pick these up if you have built PCs before. You can pick these up for basically nothing. I mean, if they're buying them in bulk as well, it's literally nothing. I reckon it's the gigabyte of DDR5 RAM is probably costing them a fortune, and the graphics cards for RAM is probably costing them a fortune. But I mean, all this wireless adapter stuff and all this Wi-Fi, they don't cost them hardly anything, dude. The Zen cores, you're not talking a lot. You're talking like $200. I mean, I can pick up the 9800 XT for like 350. And what we got here, we got 2070 performance, dude.
5700 Evoke from 2019. Lows are also functionally identical between them. The 2070 Super leads the Steam Machine by a few FPS, with the 2070 Non-Super below it, and at 88 FPS average, around the same level as the 92 FPS from the 6600. The Steam Machine ends up leading the 2070 and 3060 by about 6%, and the 2060 by 33%. As for what's ahead of it, the more modern RX 7600 ran at 112 FPS average for a lead.
Dude, you have a 7600 beating out the Steam Machine. That's not a great card to begin with. The 2080 Ti is well up there. Jesus Christ.
Of 20% over the machine. The A750 and RTX 5050 are also in this range.
You got a 5060 Ti well above it by like 50 FPS, dude. On average.
The Steam Machine's performance, in an absolute sense, is overall okay in that it's playable. However, it's weakly positioned.
I mean, it looks nice, but it's not £900 nice.
In a relative sense. In Black Myth Wukong, we measured the Steam.
Holy crap! The Intel Arc 5080 is beating it, dude. It's actually beating it. It's the same performance. It's like 1 FPS on average more than a 2070. A 3060 is about on par, dude. What?
Machine's holistic performance with SteamOS and the reporting differences at 43.9 FPS average, roughly tying the B580 and just ahead of the B570 from Intel.
Dude, an RTX 5050 gaming overclocked version per gigabyte is better, dude. What? That's the budget chip.
The RX 7600 ran at 47 FPS average, so technically an advantage, but they're comparable enough. The 5050 widens that gap despite being an awful video card, and the 6600 shows at least that the Steam Machine is outperforming the ancient GPU with modern CPU combination.
The ancient CPU with the modern GPU combination. Holy crap, dude. What is Valve thinking with this machine, dude?
Comparing against older hardware, the RTX 3060 12GB is almost perfectly matched to the Steam Machine, keeping in mind the CPU mismatch, but we're GPU bound here. Lows are also about the same. The RTX 2070 is nearly within error and variance. The Steam Machine ends up being a blend of the RX 7600, RTX 3060, RTX 2070, and B580 in this chart.
It's basically a 2070. So yeah, it's basically Valve is basically put a 2070 in the machine and trying to charge a ridiculous amount of money for it. It's just not going to happen, dude.
Fully outperforms the 6600 and the 5700. In Starfield at 1080p Ultra, which is directly comparable.
Ooh, 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 dude. In Starfield, you are getting 41 FPS with this machine. 41 at 1080p. Holy shit, dude. Ugh. Oh, that is nasty. I think consoles actually completely beat this as well. What?
To our GPU suite, the Steam machine ran at 41 FPS average and sat between the Intel A770 43 FPS average result and
dude, a 6800 XT. Dude, that is ancient, and that's hitting 60 to 80 FPS. Holy God, dude.
and the A750 38.5 FPS average, also leading the 38 FPS average of the 6600 by 8%. The RTX 5050 without a CPU limit improves upon the Steam machine's performance by 9.
A 5050 beats this, dude. They're charging way too much. This is like a 600 quid machine. What are they doing?
19.8% for average frame rate, with the 5050 also improving upon the lows, which it has at 41 and 34 to the machine's 25 and 18, predictably. By scaling, it's also better. The Steam machine has disproportionately poor 1% and 0.1% lows in this test as compared to the average when scaled against other devices. This is atypical of games running on Proton, where we typically see disproportionate advantages against Windows. This happens sometimes, it just depends on the game. The RX 7600 remains our anchor point and leads with a 49.8 FPS average, or 20%, in Oblivion Remastered at 1080p Ultra.
Dude, it's at the bottom of the chart nearly every single time. Like, we are getting a 1% low of 19 FPS. And we are getting average FPS of 27. Dude, I think some handhelds can play it better than that. Like, what the actual hell, dude? What's Valve thinking?
The Steam machine ran at 27 FPS average without any form of upscaling. Since we mostly care about the relative scaling and not absolute frame rate, that puts it as comparable to the 7600 and its 26.5 FPS average result. The Steam machine ended up with a technical improvement of 1.9% over the 7600. The frame time pacing is about the same between them, and the Steam machine leads the 2021 RX 6600 and its 19 FPS average by.
Dude, this is at 1080p as well, dude. This is at 1080p, 27 FPS. Like, I reckon some phones could play this at fucking 30 FPS, dude. Like, what?
About 40%. In Kingdom Come Deliverance 2,
Dude, this is actually a hard game to run, I'm not gonna lie. Even on some machines, it's still a hard. I got a 5080, so I'm like here. But I paid, before all the price rises, I have a 9800 X3D and a 5080. I paid £1,800 for mine. They want £900 for this, and it is at the bottom of the chart. So realistically, if this was before all the price rise and stuff, this would probably be a £400-600 machine, brand new. Because like I said, I paid £1,800 and I got 5080, so I'm like around this area, like top chart. Apart from the 4090 and the 5090, the 5080 is pretty much up there. But this is at the bottom of every single chart, dude. And this is like, they are charging you like basically £1,000 if you want a controller as well. And you have no storage whatsoever. 512 gig is nothing. We're talking Steam here. We're talking Steam's games library for 512 gigabytes. We're going to install like 5 games and then keep uninstalling every single time. Your library in Steam is massive, dude. I've literally got like over 150 games in my Steam library. Like, holy crap.
The Steam machine ran at 50 FPS average, not bad in an absolute sense, and approached the B570 in average performance while running the same lows. That's a good thing for low pacing. The machine is still beaten by the CPU Unbound RX 7600 at 59 FPS average, or a 19% advantage. In Dragon's Dogma 2, the Steam machine held a 52 FPS average with our 1080p max set.
Dude, it can't even get 60 FPS at 1080p, dude, on max settings. Like, who is this for, dude? A PC gamer is not going to buy this and be like, oh yes, I can finally play games on my big 4K TV at 1080p and less than 60 FPS. Who is this for? Like, Valve, what are you thinking, dude?
Again, that's not bad in the absolute sense that you can play this game on the machine with these settings, especially if tuning the settings or using upscaling. In the relative sense, which is what we care about here, that makes it basically a B580 or A770 for performance, both of which struggled with this game. The RX 7600 leads the Steam machine with a 60 FPS average, or by 15%. The RTX 5050 is in the same spot. The Steam machine outperforms the older RX 6600 by a few FPS average, although more notably with the lows. Final Fantasy XIV Dawn Trail's benchmark positions the Steam Machine lower than we typically expect, but
Wow, a game that has got over 60 FPS, finally, at 1080p. So you can play Final Fantasy on your TV. Could you not do that on your PlayStation before that, higher FPS? Can you not do that on your Xbox before that? Is it on the Xbox? I don't know. I know it's on the PlayStation 5, though. PlayStation is. Could you not play this at PlayStation 4 at 60 FPS? Like, dude.
it was reproducible. The Steam Machine ran at 86 FPS average with okay lows, but worse relative lows than devices like the RX 6600, which has the same average FPS.
Dude, the 2070 is beatnet by like 10 FPS. Like, come on, dude.
The machine ends up behind the 2070 at 50/50 and far behind the 107 FPS average result of the RX 7600. We test the Outer Worlds 2 at 1080p very high, so that
oh my god, dude. 26 FPS with an average 1% low of 22? This is unplayable. Less than 30 FPS is unplayable, dude. Like, I'm sorry, but you ever tried playing a game at less than 30 FPS? Even with 30 FPS is not there, dude. Like, oh, dude. This is 1080p, by the way.
For real Steam Machine use cases, but this is what we have months of data on, and so it makes sense for the best relative comparison. The Steam Machine ran at 26 FPS average. More importantly, that has it tied with the RTX 5050 and Intel B570 ARC GPUs. The RX 7600 leads the Steam Machine by about 15% here, with the machine leading cards like the RTX 3060 and RX 5700 from an era past. Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty at 1080p Ultra is next. The Steam Machine ran at 59 FPS average, about
Wow, that's quite good for Cyberpunk. I'm not going to lie, that's quite good. 1080p, a 58.5 average FPS with 1% low of, 0.1% low of 41. That's actually not too bad. That's not too bad. Still gets beaten out by the 2070. 2070 is still quite high above it. The 1% lows are 10 FPS more as well. So yeah, it's still the bottom of the chart like it has been on this entire video. Gamers Nexus does a really good job, by the way, of doing these sort of breakdowns. Like I said, he'll be in the description below if you want to check the full video out. But we're just going through the game stuff because that's all I care about, really.
Tied with the Intel Arc A750 and RTX 2070. The 3060 is just behind the Steam Machine, and the RX 7600 ran at 68 FPS average, an uplift of 16.6%. We also tried running the F1 series of games, including F1 24, but were unable to get it to run due to the anti-cheat software being incompatible with SteamOS. And we also ran Total War Warhammer 3, but it had issues with the in-game frame rate.
There's no way you're going to be playing Warhammer 3 on this machine, dude. That is taxing as anything. You try playing that, even with 5080 and 4K, dude, that was taxing as hell, dude.
Report mismatching Mango HUD, resulting in unreliable data. Ray tracing benchmarks are up now. We only have a couple. You'd really need upscaling for this to be workable, but everything scales relative to each other, so we'll stick to our approach for
ray tracing on this. Okay.
The Steam Machine ran at 21 FPS.
20 FPS, dude. Holy. I mean, let's be real. My 5080, where's my 5080? My 5080 is not even getting 120 FPS on average. And this is at 1080p. If my 5080 is not even going to get this, then there's no way in hell this budget ass machine is going to get more than 20 FPS. I mean, 20.7 for this budget machine is probably still pretty good.
FPS average in Cyberpunk with RT medium settings, again that improve with upscaling and settings tuning, but the relative rank would not meaningfully change and may even get worse versus other devices. The RX 7600 ran 8% ahead of the Steam Machine, but with worse 0.1% lows. The 6600 is just behind the machine in average, but also worse for lows.
Dude, you're better off building your own PC, like your own little box PC for your living room with a 2070 in it. You would probably still make one. If you can get second-hand DDR4 RAM, you could probably build a 2070 PC for around 1,000 or less than 1,000 and have so much better performance than you would with this box. I'm sorry, but you probably would.
The RTX 3050, 3060, and 2070 all outperform the Steam Machine meaningfully. Valve posted a last-minute ray tracing performance patch that we also tested. The Steam Machine patch pushed it to 22.8 FPS average from 20.7, an improvement of 10%. It's a lot for a software update. We also ran ray tracing with Black Myth Wukong at 1080p high and
the very bottom of the chart, dude. This one is actually impressively bad. Like, holy crap. My 5080 is hitting 120 FPS. It's not too bad. Dude, this is hitting 14 FPS on average at 1080p high settings and medium ray tracing. I'm surprised it didn't crash on them.
Using quality FSR settings, the end result was 14 FPS, so it's just not playable. Maybe on low settings and performance FSR, but RT in this game is really heavy, period, but especially for the Steam machine. Valve's last-minute patch boosted it to 16.7 FPS from 13.8. Although the absolute value is obviously low, this is a huge percentage increase of 21%. That matches Valve's expectations. SteamOS has historically improved upon frame-to-frame interval over Windows for handhelds, so we'll
what we're going to skip to now, I'm going to skip to the CPU. We've got CPU benchmarks here. That's a 7-zip. CPU games. There we go. There we go here.
7.4 seconds to complete simulation, which puts it between the R5 3600 and R7 3700X. The 5600X completed the same simulation in 24% less time using the Linux version.
It's like bottom 4 on CPU as well. CPU games. Let's check out CPU
performance
games.
Isn't bad for the
The Outer World. Still bottom 3, dude, on the CPU
but
versions.
Paying this much money for effectively a 2019 R5 3600 computer in 2026 doesn't feel great. In Starfield at 1080p low for the
bottom of the chart again, dude. CPU benchmarks, bottom of the chart, 1080p low settings, bottom of the chart, average FPS 64. Actually higher FPS than the actual GPU, which is strange. I suppose it is low settings, but still.
The CPU, the Steam machine landed at 65 FPS average with poor lows, disproportionately.
He says we got some problems. He says we got some problems. Okay, let's listen to what he says about the problems.
On Valve devices, like the 2013 original, and on desktops, but that plan has been moving slowly, with some exceptions like the Legion Go S and third-party hacks. Valve reiterated to us that it's opening up installs on third-party hardware. It also sounds like NVIDIA driver support is predictably tricky because Linux with NVIDIA, but AMD and Intel should be fine. Escape during the boot process enters BIOS, which is navigable with a Steam controller if you get one before 2027. Performance settings are entirely adjusted from inside the OS and are very limited. There aren't any controls for memory speed or timings within BIOS, which may make upgrading less precise. There aren't any overclocking options or TDP or PBT bypasses, which sadly limits the headroom of mods, useful overclocks, and competitive overclocks. BIOS consists of settings for S4 Wake on USB, S4 S5 Wake on LAN, and WLAN, Fast Boot, which is on by default, BIOS Splash logo support for presumably third-party Steam machines from OEMs and SIs, and USB hotkey support. LED options include a toggle, power, and strip LED brightness, with the strip being used for game and firmware downloading progress as a progress bar, strip effects, and strip colors. Valve's been short-sighted on its non-handheld deployment of SteamOS in several instances. On first boot, the machine immediately shows diagrams for connecting a keyboard and mouse, as well as a Steam puck and controller. After that, we couldn't get any further.
So, what if you buy the budget edition, you don't have the controller, and you don't have the keyboard and mouse? What are you meant to do? What are you meant to do? There it is. What if you do not have a controller or a keyboard and mouse? This is budget option. Budget option is £900. It's like $1,100 or whatever. You do not. It does not come with a controller. It does not come with a keyboard and mouse. So you now got to go and spend more money. So realistically, the minimum you could spend on this is £938, which is about $1,100 USD. That is the minimum requirement. You do not have a keyboard and mouse or a controller to use this machine. Keep that in mind.
Than language and time zone without an internet connection, and there might be a workaround equivalent to the OOBE bypass for Windows, but considering the whole thing is built around logging into a Steam account, that wouldn't really ultimately accomplish that much. Before going all in on SteamOS, it's worth considering how you feel about a Linux distribution that's built ground up with an always online philosophy, even if you can use it offline, especially with Steam having an offline mode. If you wanted to install this on a standalone desktop that's not the Steam machine, you might want to consider something like Bazite instead, just because it's built with the however the fuck you want to use it sort of use case in mind.
I mean, realistically, dude, you don't even want to buy this machine.
Logging in was the first reminder that the SteamOS UI was not built to prioritize mouse and keyboard. Every time we clicked a text box, the on-screen keyboard would pop up even without a controller connected, and every menu shows controller glyphs. Some mouse cursor icons were low.
They say use a mouse and keyboard, but there's no input for mouse and keyboard. It's only controller inputs. Okay, that is already an issue. You buy a brand new system and it still doesn't work correctly.
And stretched at 4K, and dragging items around in the download queue made them.
That looks freaking horrible, dude. Oh my god. This is a 1080p screen, or a 4K screen, and a 1080p display. 1080p has been stretched to 4K. It looks freaking horrible.
Teleport around. The quick access menu that contains multiple vital settings doesn't have an on-screen prompt, and the keyboard shortcut is the less than obvious Control+2, or on an Xbox controller, Xbox and A. SteamOS is still
Xbox and A. God damn.
Controller first. Desktop mode works fine, other than some occasional flickery artifacts. The keyboard and mouse work, and it feels familiar to any desktop OS, including file navigation, typing notes.
The idea is not to have it on a desktop, though. The idea is to have it in your living room. That's the whole reason you get this box.
And generally navigating the OS. Since this could be used as a desktop, we'd like Valve to tweak the gaming mode UI to dynamically adapt to mouse and keyboard and not simply just support them. We'd also like to see multi-display support, which currently only works in desktop mode. The biggest issue we ran into was that the resolution for all games is capped to 1920 by 1080.
Oh no, capped to 1080p? Good luck playing on your big 4K screens and not having an absolutely terrible experience viewing this.
Out of the box, there's a maximum resolution for each game in its Steam configuration settings, which starts at the known and common resolution of default, meaning that it defers to the top level Steam setting for maximum game resolution, which is also default, meaning in this instance 1920 by 1080. Although useful for capping the resolution on borderless windowed only games like Starfield, the implementation just isn't clean or good. Valve told us that, quote, 1080p is the system default game resolution on Steam Machine to ensure a good gameplay experience out of the box.
They know they're selling this, or trying to sell this, to an audience that want to play on their TV. There isn't many people who do not have a 4K TV now. You can buy a 4K TV just as cheap as 1080p TVs were back in the day. Like, you can get a 4K TV for like $200-$400 now. Like, come on, Steam. What are you doing? 1080p?
And is the resolution we use for Steam Machine verified testing, end quote. This led to a confusing situation where we had a system running at 4K connected to a 4K display, which would never show any resolutions above 1920 by 1080.
There you go. There you go. Gamers Nexus literally just said it does not go above 1920p. Right? So you're on a 4K TV, you're on a 4K monitor, put it on 1080p. Still get bad performance because the machine's weak as anything, and you get a really blurry, horrible picture.
Games in full screen mode. You can work around this. It's just confusing as an end user used to basically any other operating system. Responding to our feedback, Valve said it is, quote, currently working on UI updates to help customers understand what resolution their games will launch at and how they can easily change this setting, end quote. The fact that the cap is tied to the Steam Machine verified program makes us worried that they won't change it, but it should at least be less confusing. Speaking of the verified program, our feeling that Valve has been short-sighted is growing. We had wondered what the long-term plan was when Valve...
Yeah, they definitely short-sighted. They built this machine back in like 2-3 years ago. It's the same on par performance with 2070, 1920 by 1080 resolution. I don't know when they decided to design this machine, but it's not designed for the modern day stuff. It's not designed for the 4K TVs. It's not designed to run the 4K TVs. It's designed to run a 1080p TV at 30 to 40 FPS. That is an issue.
Valve launched a verification program around a single deck hardware configuration that labels over 100,000 games with, quote, Steam Deck compatibility, end quote. And the answer is apparently that it's just adding another verification program, which seems unsustainable given the inevitable Deck 2, although since Valve can't count to 3, maybe it's not that unsustainable, but then they run into the problem of Legion Go S and other official SteamOS partners. There are other signs of ill-preparedness. All the directories and usernames on the Steam Machine contain the word Deck, which it isn't, and every time we ping the sensors, we get an an error because one of the Steam Deck sensors isn't present because it isn't a Steam Deck. Valve was supposedly always planning to distribute SteamOS on non-Deck devices, so they should have built this without those dependencies and artifacts. This is bleeding into game functionality as well. There's now a per-game disable Steam Deck auto-detection toggle, which may be necessary for games that see the Steam machine running SteamOS and, for example...
Right, guys, so to be completely honest with you guys, this is dead on arrival. Anyone who knows anything about games, like, you're better off a console at this point than you are with a Steam machine. Valve has completely screwed this up. This is absolutely the biggest mess. They should not even release this, right? I don't know what they're thinking. They should have gone back to the drawing board. They should have put in a better GPU. They should have put in a better CPU. They should automatically ship it with a controller, because you cannot buy the base box without and use it without a controller or a keyboard and mouse. So even if you buy the base edition, you cannot play it without having a third-party controller or a Steam controller or keyboard and mouse. So you do have to spend extra money to get that. The games run like absolute garbage at 1080p. You're lucky if you're hitting 30 to 40 FPS. Some games hit 50. Most games do not hit 60 FPS at 1080p. And this is supposed to be used for your living room, guys. And your living room is normally a 4K TV. It's going to be a 1080p picture stretched to 4K, so it's going to look like absolute dog shit. Okay? I know Steam has an amazing library of games. It is the best library of games on the market. You cannot beat it. If you have a high-end PC or a middle-end PC, you are absolutely on point. Best experience you can get. But Valve has just shot themselves in the foot, because this is not it, dude. It's just not it. 30 FPS, 60 FPS at 1080p is not in 2026, dude. If we were back in 2002, it would be absolutely amazing, but we're not. So, yeah. This is my reaction to Gamers Nexus. If you want to see the full Gamers Nexus video going over everything, link in the description below. Thank you for watching, guys. And mate, if you got any sense, don't buy the Steam machine. You are wasting your money. All right. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.